Right, I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to start. It's 6 minutes past, and I think that's a good enough wait for people to join. So, good evening. I did post a preview of what I was going to be doing. So I'll be doing something a little bit different this evening. I'll be working with an embossing folder, which does mean that I will be using my machine this evening, so that it will be noisy for one moment. It is a fairly quick card to make, so I've left some of the trimming down that I would normally do outside of the live. I've left some of the trimming in the process, so some of it might be a bit boring. I apologise. I apologise for that. I'll be working with a different colour scheme this evening, and I'll be working with a different sentiment, because I think in my head I told myself I wouldn't work with the Narky sentiments, and I confused myself, and I ended up I don't know how I ended up actually working with them, and realised that would have been 3 weeks on the bounce. So I'll be changing it up, and this evening, hiya Karen, how are you? This evening I'll be working with Narky Life Affirmations, which I don't think I've really worked with. Oh, I have. I remember actually. I remember working with it and using this stamp. But I am trying to mix it up, so do bear with me. Oh, right, Vicky, that makes sense. I might get my son to do it. I did say I was going to employ him as a bit of work experience, so maybe I can get him involved. So, with all that said, I'll get started. I'll be working with a few different products, but don't be overwhelmed. It is really a very quick, very simple card. So you shouldn't be here too long, in theory, tonight either. The one thing I didn't do was get down some Nouveau drops. And actually there's some nice blue ones right in front of me, which... Here we go, I'll work with those. So, I'll be working with a 6x6 this evening, which is really unusual for me. But this seemed to call for a 6x6, so I'm running with it. I won't be using the blue and the pinks. I'll be using the pastel yellow. Oh, well, I will be using the blue, just not the pink. So, blue and yellow. So... I'll be working with a really pretty embossing folder, a really pretty spring embossing folder, and I figured that as long as the theme was in line with what's going on around us, then we can just change up the sentiment and it will still be quite appropriate, if that makes sense. So this is Spring Flowers, Nelly Snellen. I love a Nelly Snellen, I'll be honest. Nelly Snellen, I'm having trouble saying it. I think it's because I've got a little bit of a cold. Nelly Snellen embossing folders and stamps I think are fantastic, and really lend themselves well to just doing it for you. Hello Celine, how are you? No problem at all. I hope you're well. So the first thing I'm going to do is emboss my card. So I've kind of cut it down to the right size. So I think, if I remember correctly, I think I'm going blue in the background. Yes, I'm going blue in the background. So I'm going to emboss the yellow piece of card. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not prepping that card. It's not the thickest of card. It's probably around 230, 250 GSM. I'm not prepping that at all. I'm just running that straight through the machine. So bear with while I do that, and then it'll be done and over with, and I won't be using... Oh, actually I will. I'll be doing some die cutting. Bear with. I'm just running this through now. They do, Vicky, don't they? So I've run that through. and I'll hold that up, and you can really see the lovely detail in that, which just means that I don't have to do anything if I don't want to. I can do as much or as little as I like because the detail is all there in the embossing folder. So I'm going to do some trimming. So we're going to have now I'm a lazy crafter. I don't measure, I trim by eye, and what I do is I measure things up and then I use a pencil to mark off what I don't want. So I'm going to trim that here, and then I'll come back to this because that will need quite a bit of trimming as well. Right, so that's all ready to go. So I'm just going to mark that with a T so that I know where the top of that is, so that I don't, because although it's 6 by 6, it's not actually, it doesn't actually measure accurately 6 inches by 6 inches. So there'll always be one side longer than the other. So if I just mark up the top, then I know what goes where. Now I know that we've got a straight edge there where it went through the embossing folder, so I know I'll take that off straight away, but I'll trim a little bit more off with it so that we don't end up with a clean edge. We want it to be the same around all edges, whereby the pattern overhangs the edge and it doesn't come straight all the way up to the edge and stop. So this as well, in the same manner, that had a straight edge, a clean edge, so we just trimmed that away. And now I'll measure that against the blue. So I want a fair amount of blue to show, a couple of mil. So I'll just mark that and then trim that off as well. Right, I'm going to pop that aside for a moment. I shouldn't need that too much more. Just get rid of my scraps. Right, so in the same manner that I did before, I'm going to, that hasn't cut straight, that edge is not straight, so I'm just going to square that off. And sometimes these trimmers can be a little bit temperamental. Oh, Vicky, great minds think alike. I'm not doing a reef card, but with the circles on the square. Okay. Perfect. So I've got the top marked up on the blue. So I'll now mark the top up on the yellow. So what I'm going to do is, as I've done on this one, I'm going to pick up the raised areas of the embossing folder with some ink just to pull that detail out. So I haven't practiced with this colour scheme, so we'll have to see if it works, but I picked out tumbled glass. I think that corresponds really well, but whether or not it will show up over the yellow, time will tell. So all I'm doing, I did try it with the embossing tool, but with the embossing tool I found that it went onto the background too much. I don't want too much of it going onto the background. I want it on the 3D area. So I'm just going to use my finger to pick up that ink and just gently brush that across. I'm going to move that blue card. And this might take me a moment, so you'll have to bear with me. But that colour is actually quite nice. I think that it shows up quite nicely, and it still complements the rest of the blue colour theme really well. And by using the finger, it means that I'm avoiding going on them flat areas behind the 2D parts, as it were, I suppose. You can do this as much or as little as you like. you might want some of them untouched, or you might want it a bit heavier in places. That's completely up to you. And you will get some of the 2D area, the flat area, the background, but that's okay, it's handmade. We expect that, don't we? If you're very clever and you've got a lot of patience, I mean, there's a lot of detail on this embossing folder, so I'm not sure I would try it. But if you've got the time and the patience, then you might want to pick out areas in certain colours. Right, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think that'll do me. So I'm just going to wipe my hand because I don't want that blue getting everywhere. Okay, so that's starting to really come together with the blue. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut out the scalloped circle. Now I did it wrong here, I wasn't concentrating, and I actually cut the circle, the blue, from the pink scallop. I can't explain what I mean, but rather than cut a circle separately, I actually cut it out of the pink. Right. So for this, I'm using the Noble Collection Scalloped Circles. There we go. Noble Collection Scalloped Circles from Creative Expressions. I managed to get these while they were in the sale, so I got myself a little bargain with those. So I'm going to cut that out of blue. And would you look at that, I've not got any blue to hand, so I'm just going to dig out some blue. Oh no, actually what I'll do is what you've seen me do time and time again, so nothing new here. I'm going to gut the blue here because we don't need it there anyway. It's just behind, not being seen. And that will give me enough blue card to cut my scallop circle from, without cutting into a whole new piece of A4 card. Right, so that will be for that. Okay, and then to save me using the machine twice, I will cut out the circle as well while I'm here. And so for that, I'm using the simple circles from Time for Tea Designs. These are an absolute go-to when I'm cutting circles. There's so many different sizes in there, one for every need. So all I did with this was I tried to get the same size of the hollow in the circle. So first time, but so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I wanted as little of that scallop on show as possible, just the frills themselves. So that was my trail of thinking there. So I'm just going to run these through my machine now. So we're going with that in the yellow, and then the scallop in the blue. Right. So excuse the state of my cutting mats. They have seen better days. I had a Gemini many years ago. Bear with. So I've managed to overlap those. So yeah, I had a Gemini many years ago, and when I gave up crafting, I destashed the Gemini, and the plates on that were fantastic. They didn't warp. And then I picked up crafting again, and someone bought me the Gemini as a gift, and the plates are now made from a different material, and they warp after several uses. It's really frustrating. It doesn't affect anything other than, well, it does. It affects the pressure. And also when you're putting it in the machine, because of the warping, they slip down. The dies that you're putting through and the paper, the card, they all slip out. Right, so I'm just going to pop, ignore that yellow. That's just where my card slipped and it got caught underneath that die. I'm just popping these little bits out. Do you know what, Karen? When I first did this yesterday, I did weave some of the ribbon. I started weaving it through the scallops. But I used ribbon, and I decided that it was probably too thick, and I didn't even consider using thread. So that's a great idea. I might try that next time I use the scallop circles. Right, so I'm just going to pop them away. Oh, I need that as well, don't I? Silly sausage. There we go. Right. Yeah, I think I didn't like the outcome because I didn't like it with ribbon, and it would have added a nice bit of sparkle as well, wouldn't it, doing that? I now buy the plates from a company online. I don't buy the official Gemini ones. I buy them from a company online in Wales because I don't mind going through the plates as much then, because they're far cheaper. I think they're less than £10 and free postage for one of the base plate. Right, so far this is how it's looking. So I think at this stage I might start putting it together. So let's bring in some glue, and I think I'll stick this down to the blue frame. Let's hope the glue wants to work. Sorry, it's really scratching because of the texture. So just make sure that that's top and that's top. So I'm just wiggling it around, just trying to make them sides as even as I can. I think that'll do me. And then similarly, I'll apply the glue on here, and we'll attach that to the card at this stage. Rather than lift my thumb there, I just glued over it. Why not? Right. And then place that down. So I'll stick the trying to pick it up. I got a bit distracted there. I'll stick the yellow circle. Down onto the blue scallop circle. There we go. And I think for this part, I'll use foam tape. So I had a bit of fun doing this. We don't want it overlapping the apertures of the scallops. It's going everywhere. Why is it doing that? What's going on? There. So far so good in terms of the length of those. Wow, I'm impressed. That is skill. Blowing my own trumpet. Okay, so then I'll just stick that down. I'll make it not quite central in terms of height. I'm going to take it a little bit higher because I want it to be central once the bow's on there. So I couldn't find any of this ribbon in blue, so I've gone for a finer ribbon. I'm hoping it still has the same effect. Just trying to do this so that the tails are at the bottom. That's it. So I'm not going to use scissors. I'm going to use a different pair because they're my glue scissors, and they won't cut properly. They will stick to the ribbon, and then the ribbon will feather. That'll do. It doesn't give quite the same effect, but it'll do. I'm quite okay with that. I have a manual machine actually, Vicky, but I'm a bit lazy and I end up piling things on top of it. So when I come to use it, I can't be bothered to move everything off of it. It's really bad. But also, to be honest with you, it plays havoc on my hands anyway, so it's probably best I avoid the manual one. Right, so I'm just going to stick that down. Now, for that, I used clear, what's it called? Glossy accents. I use glossy accents. I find that for sticking down anything that's a little bit, that's non-paper and card, I find glossy accent does the job. Glossy accents does the job wonderfully. So that's held. So I'm just going to pop that aside. That's how we're looking at the moment. This would look, I don't know why, but this looks like a baby card at the moment. Oh, thanks, Mum. I've got to be honest with you all now. Now I'm being honest, and I'm not probably selling myself in a very good light here. This card I'm not actually too keen on. When I come to sit down yesterday and decide what to make, I was absolutely having a mental block. I was lacking inspiration. I didn't know what to do. And I'm not entirely sure the sentiment goes very well with the card, the overall card. However, I'm running with it. But as it stands at the moment, wouldn't that look really good if there was just a 1 in there, perhaps, or a 2 for the younger years? I don't know, maybe it's me. Thank you, Karen. Right, so now I'm going to do the sentiment. So, I've got lots of offcuts here, and I don't throw my offcuts away. I'll be using one of these for the sentiment. So we'll be using blue to match the blue in the background here, the blue scallops. So I'll be using a blue. So I won't be using that one. this one looks perfect for the job. So let's get rid of the yellow. And I think I decided to go with Because Adulting is Hard on this one. I am pondering over that one. Yeah, I think it needs a tamer sentiment. So I'm going to go with the Because Adulting is Hard. So I'm not going to do any embossing on this. I'm simply going to stamp this in black. So as I've mentioned, I'll be using, this is from the Narky Life Affirmations. So this will be product of the week, and that'll be just £8.80 in the shop for the week. Yeah, a baby card. I think it'd be really apt for a baby card. One that's birthdays in the spring or born in the spring. Right, so I'm going to, let me trim this down first. See, I work in chaos, the way my mind works. I'm going to trim that down first, and then I know that I'm getting the sentiment straight. Or at least I hope I'm getting the sentiment straight. I'm just going to let the card absorb the ink. Now we'll do. And then trim that down. I'm happy with that. That will do. Just checking the time. It's a very early one tonight, but I'm sure you've all got better things to be doing anyway. Oh, well, that's exciting, Karen. A first grandchild. Right, I'm just going to pop this back. Congratulations to you all. And then I'm going to stick that down just with some adhesive. What do you mean, Mum? Bunny boxes? That sounds intriguing. I'm assuming bunny boxes are boxes shaped like bunnies and filled with goodies, lots of goodies. Is that right? There we go. So Because Adulting is Hard in the middle there. And then I'll use these Nouveau drops. Now, I think I did far too many here and I didn't like it. It looked like it had chicken pox. So I'm using the Blue Babe. Well, that's a nice name. First of all, just checking that on the back of my hand, that's ready and raring to go, just so we don't have any explosions. Excuse me 1 minute. Sorry about that. And then I'm just going to put, I think 3 is the magic number, so I'm going to put 1 here and then a slightly larger one with it, and then 1 here. And then I'm just going to give that a pat or a tap just to level them drops out. And there we go. We have it. Ah, cute, Vicky. That sounds really cute. I must get more involved in these hops, actually. Honestly, Karen, no. I don't know where I gave the impression that there's more babies on the way, but absolutely no babies for me coming. Right. So, there we go. That, I couldn't imagine anything worse, to be honest. Two's too much. Right. What do we think? Now, if I had another one lined up, I'd quickly whiz through another one, but I won't be doing that to you. So I'll love you and leave you. Now, Vicky, I don't know if we're talking about bunny boxes or if we're talking about babies. Both, I'm sure, could quite easily take over your life. Absolutely, no, just no. I'm getting flustered just at the thought of more babies, to be honest. Okay, no more babies. Yeah, so that was, just to clarify, just to confirm, that was done using the Narky Life Affirmations. That I've already put that in the shop live at 20% off. So that is £8.80 for the time being until next week. And then, depending on what stamp set I'll use next week, that will change next Monday. Thank you for those that joined me tonight as opposed to yesterday. Apologies I couldn't make yesterday. I had a vet appointment that I forgot that we'd booked. It was a really difficult time, actually. And I won't be rushing to make those timed appointments in future. Thanks, Mum. Yeah, handmade cards. Oh, did your screen just go funny there, or was it just mine? Anyway, yeah, handmade cards are far superior, aren't they, to just the shop bought ones. It's a shame that no shops seem to sell handmade cards, just hand finished, which is quite a difference. Right, I am going to love you all and leave you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Angela. Thank you all very much for joining, and I hope to see you all again same time next week, same place and same day. So Monday 6 PM, same place. Right, thank you again everyone for joining. I will pop this video up on YouTube this evening. So I'll be taking it down off the Facebook page, just because. No reason, just because. Right. Have a lovely evening yourself, Angela, and everyone have a lovely evening, and thanks again for joining. Bye.